Yo, what is going on, my fellow Magic Knights? It is your boy DEADMANVINCE back with yet another Black Clover mobile video. Hope you guys have been enjoying the content lately. Hope the new year has been treating you guys well, even though we're only 2 days in. We're gonna go ahead and just dive right into the video. We're gonna be talking about what blue mages you should be focusing on for your gear farming team, your talent farming team, just like anywhere that blue mages are prevalent. Which ones should you be focusing on, and what reasons should you be focusing on them for? But if you guys do enjoy these videos, then you can definitely go down below. You can hit that like button. You can also subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you know when every time the dead man drops a video, you can get tapped in with some more dark hostile mana. There we go. That's what it is. But yeah. Like I said, we're going to go ahead and just hop right into it. So let's go ahead and go over to the gear dungeon. Alright guys, so we're here at the red gear dungeon. We will have separate videos for the blue and green gear dungeons. But right here, you can see that in the red gear dungeon, you're going to be getting gold star speed gear, gold star defense, gold star attack, regular speed gear, regular attack. Regular defense is not in the mix here. Gotta make sure. But yeah, so this is usually going to be the gear stage that you're farming the most. This one has the most versatile gear sets for any of your mages. Most of the time you're building attack or you're building some form of defense on your mages, or even speed, because speed is such a crucial determining factor in who goes first in PvP and even some actual PvE content. Let's go ahead and hop in here. Usually, I will preface, usually this team right here is more so this setup right here. Now, when I started playing the game, I did not have mages that hit everything super hard. I had mages who could survive anything. So whenever I was making teams to farm out stages, I had made teams that maybe aren't the fastest farming on it, but are guaranteed to win, so that when you have a team that is more so oriented around healing, defense, and not the attack, then even though your team will not finish the fastest, you know your team will finish at some point. You know your team will win. So those are the kind of teams that I was going for at the start of the game to make sure that I was winning my auto battles, because as a content creator and also as the ultimate BCM gacha collector, right? You want to make sure that your time is not wasted in the game. So instead of going for big damage and hoping that that team can blow the enemies out of the water super fast, no, I just had teams that survived. And when I left, because I had to be going for long periods of times, going to work, do whatever, do this, right? I come back and at the end of the day, my team still won all the runs. So I always used to go for the survivalist kind of mindset. Now I'm actually using a full DPS team these days here. And let's go ahead and kind of go over them and just break them down. So I will say the most important mage on this team that I'm looking at right now, probably Lotus. Julius definitely hits super hard, but it's just Lotus just provides so much for your team. So Lotus's skill 1 is going to have a 50% chance to, and honestly, I'm just going to read all of these at the level 5 version, but has a 55% chance to inflict 15% reduced stamina on an enemy. So this move right here is an AoE move. So, and this is his first skill, so he can use this every single turn. Literally, you have a 55% chance to lower everybody on the enemy team's stamina every turn, right? And as you lower their stamina time and time again over the duration of the battle, they're just not going to be getting as many turns out, and eventually it's just going to be your team one-sided, just bullying the enemies. His skill 2 is going to be a single target. It extends enemy debuff duration by 1 turn, which is pretty solid. It also inflicts reduced damage resistance level 3 by 2 turns, so it reduces damage resistance by 24%. That's pretty solid as well. And then inflicts the enemy with a counter attack or concentrated attack for 1 turn. Now, concentrated attack, everywhere on the wiki that I look, I don't really see a specific explanation of concentrated attack. It's just, if you are attacked, you will receive critical damage. Okay, I never knew that, and I never took the time to translate Lotus's thing right there. So that's even crazier than what I expected it to be. His ultimate is going to have a level 3 incapacitate on it for 2 turns. The level 3 incapacitate makes enemies take 50% more damage, so you're swiping much easier. 50% chance to remove all buffs. If you have this at level 5, then it is a 60% chance to remove all buffs from an enemy. Then 50% chance to inflict reduced speed level 3 to an enemy for 2 turns. And that is speed reduced by 55%. So you can see automatically that Lotus is absolutely toxic in the sense that he can absolutely control and dominate the enemies that you're going against. Then We have Blue Yami here. Blue Yami is a mage that I didn't want to give his props at first, but I mean, like, when you're very early game, he's gonna be very good. I feel like you only kind of ever use him again late game if you want to, type of deal. And literally I was like, I already have a gear set for Yami. I can put it on Blue Yami and just see how he works in here, try him out. He works. He's faster than having Charmy in there. So, I mean, yeah, I guess intended purpose. Boom. Even though he may be niche, in my opinion, he still has his use. His skill 1 is a single target. It attacks after granting increased all attack level 1 upon having 4 or more SP. So if you have 4 or more SP, if you're halfway to your ultimate or more than halfway to your ultimate, he'll increase his magic attack and his attack by 30% before he attacks, giving him pretty solid damage on his skill 1. His skill 2 inflicts block HP recovery on all enemies. This one's not as important for PvE like farming, just because a lot of the enemies aren't healers, so it's like you're not really trying to stop any HP recovery. He grants himself 1 SP, which is pretty solid, which gets him back towards his ultimate faster. And if you have his skill page, he actually gives himself 2 SP. He removes 1 debuff, so if he's like bleeding or on fire or electrocuted, like anything like that, he has a chance to remove it, so that's pretty solid. Or he will remove it, it's pretty solid. Then when a debuff is removed, attacks after granting 15% increased damage dealt. So if he removes a debuff first, this skill does a bit more damage, and this skill is an AoE, so that's like the main thing that I feel like makes it like good for farming. Then you have his ultimate, which inflicts SP -3 on an enemy and inflicts total silence on an enemy for 2 turns. Again, I feel like these silences and HP recovery block are like much better in a PvP sense, but even still, he does solid damage. He does good damage, actually. And his skill 2 is an AoE, so I feel like he's still a good option that you can use in the dungeons. His combo skill removes the enemy's barrier before attacking. The enemies don't make barriers in the dungeon. And also, if you enhance him to 2-star, he does 5% extra damage dealt. So also, he just does good. Oh, and also his unique passive is it grants him 15% increased favor damage. So there you go. That's all together. His kit makes him like kind of like a no-brainer for this stage. So yeah, Yami's pretty good. Then let's take a look at Julius here. Julius is an absolute menace, the man, the myth, the legend. His skill 1 hits actually pretty hard, and it applies 5% decreased stamina to an enemy, so slowing them down over time, taking their stamina down over time is going to get them less turns. If the attack is a critical hit, applies 5% increased stamina to all allies. So if Julius crits, then everybody's getting 5% increase to stamina as you're taking away the enemy stamina. That's pretty cool. That's a nice touch because Julius talks about how he steals people's time, and that's like a proper reflection of that. His skill 2 is an AoE that actually does pretty good, like all Julius' skills do good damage. Is an AoE, 50% chance to inflict time stop to an enemy for 2 turns, and time stop disables the effect of skill 2 and increases his cooldown by 1 turn. So not only would your skill 2's effect not work, but also you have an extra turn cooldown on it. So like literally the way that looks is in PvP, maybe if you are if you haven't taken your turn yet and the enemy team goes first, if Julius does his skill 2 and time stop somebody, when you get to your first turn, their skill 2 is going to be locked away automatically because you got to wait for that first turn to go by. So time stop can definitely be treacherous. Grant self increased speed level 3 for 2 turns also, or for 1 turn on his skill 2. And if you have his skill page, he reduces the stamina of the targeted enemy to 0. So whoever you tap on, choose, he will reduce their stamina to 0 and they will lose that next turn, basically. And then 60% chance to apply 10% decreased stamina to enemies other than the targeted one. So all around, just pure hatred, dude. If you have his skill page, you're taking away somebody's stamina all the way down to 0, and there's a chance you're lowering everybody else around them stamina so that they're not getting as many turns either. Saying. Then right here, his ultimate is going to be a single target. It stuns an enemy for 1 turn. If it kills an enemy, then you just get an extra turn off of it. And then it applies 20% decreased stamina to that enemy as well. And if you get the skill all the way up to level 5, then it's going to imply a 30% increase to stamina. But yeah, not Lotus. Julius is just a very, very offensive option. Hits very hard. Has a lot of very good like offensive utility to him. So you definitely want to be. And also, if he dies, if you have him 2-star and he dies, he comes back at 45% HP and just continues to fight. If you have him 5-star and he dies, he comes back at 100% HP and continues to fight. So another very good option for somebody you want to be bringing into this dungeon. Fauna is still the GOAT, in my opinion. She's still the GOAT, bro. She's still really good. The second fauna that came out was really good, but I feel like she didn't eclipse the first fauna just because this first fauna, they're just different colors, so different purposes. Her skill 1 has a 60% chance to burn. It hits hard. All of her fauna skills hit hard, just like Julia's. All fauna skills hit hard too. So first skill, single target, chance to inflict burn for 2 turns. Her skill 2. If the enemy is taking continuous damage from burn, attacks after granting 50% life steal. And if you have her skill page, 50% chance to inflict burn on an enemy, dealing continuous damage for 2 turns. So she can give herself life steal, helps with her survivability by herself. Her ultimate attacks all enemies, grants increased all attack for 2 turns. That's 40% boost to attack and magical attack for 2 turns. So that's really good as well. And then her combo skill is if an enemy has a debuff, attacks after granting 30% increased damage dealt. So if you have somebody on your team debuffing enemies, she'll hit really hard on that combo skill as well. Her unique passive grants 15% increased damage dealt when HP is equal to 100% or higher. So if you can properly get that life still working, or if you use her like first turn and nobody hits her, and that sounded kind of like bad. No. In the dungeon, your team is more than likely going to be faster than the mobs, and especially if you're going to be having like somebody like Julius who's slowing down the enemies, or Lotus who's slowing down the enemies. So your mages will be faster. So Fauna's first turn, she's just going to get an extra 15% increased damage dealt for free, basically, because she's going to be at 100% health. She's just going to smack, and then she also gets 7% favorite damage dealt on her enhanced passive. It probably goes up to 14% if you get it all the way up to 5-star. Actually, I can just look right here. 14% type favor damage, so she's perfect for the red gear stage. Yami and Fauna are like 2 like golden choices because their type damage is just so like their type damage is increased, right, and against type disadvantage enemies, and this dungeon has all red enemies. So now I'm going to go ahead and go in, and I'm going to auto battle with this team just so we can see how well this team works. Guys, I will say that in these videos here, I will be doing kind of like the best JP team, then the best global team, then the best like free to play team. Then I'll just talk about more choices in between there. But you can see here already, like, they're doing really good damage. Fauna didn't even need to waste her entire ultimate, but Lotus already had them locked down with his ultimate. Julius doing really crazy damage. Yami's AoE, boom, does really good damage, especially because I have a skill page as well. Fauna does some good damage here too. Like, this team's focus is more so just like AoE burn, because Fauna has 2 AoE skills, Yami has 1, Julius has 1, Lotus has 2 AoE skills. So that is the name of the game. Just AoE, 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 and then like my mages still have strong single target abilities if they need to resort to those as well. But yeah, so I'm not gonna really do another like auto battle run with the best global team, because like I'm not gonna lie, this is probably like your best bet for the global team too, because like Fauna, Julius, Yami, and then Lotus is just an evil composition. You could bring other, like, there are JP mages that you could bring that aren't in global yet, like Charlotte and like Ghosh. Ghosh is actually on global, but it's just like, I feel like going full damage is just going to get you through this stage the fastest. But we are going to talk about some mages that you can switch out now on the global side. So I just made a bunch of like extra teams here, and we're just going to go quickly over all the rest of these mages here. We have Mars and then Vengeance. Those are the 2 new subs in. We already talked about Lotus, we already talked about Fauna. So what the appeal of using Vengeance is that Vengeance, when he first came out, he was actually like the best supporter in the damn game. His skill 1 has a 40% chance to turn the enemy into a tree, effectively making them lose their turn the next time it's their turn. It's called Mutate. That's the debuff. His skill 2, without a skill page, grants an ally increased attack level 4 for 2 turns, grants an ally increased speed level 4 for 2 turns, and then has a 60% chance to grant an ally 10% mobility when their mobility is equal to 50% or lower. If you have that skill level 5, then that's a 100% chance to grant an ally 20% increased mobility when their mobility is 50% or lower. And if you have a skill page, grants an ally status change immunity for 1 turn. His ultimate, it hits everybody. It doesn't do a lot of damage though. It's going to give all of your allies Fortify level 3 though for 2 turns, and that Fortify level 3 is going to reduce the damage that you take for 2 turns, or by 35% for 2 turns. Then also gives the ally with the strongest attack stat counterattack. So MAGES has a lot of like good all-around support. There's defensive options there. There's utility speed options there. There's offensive attack options there. So MAGES is just a really good support to have with your team. Good synergy. Then we have Mars here. Mars is actually very, very good as a guardian. He's one of the 2 mages that you really want to re-roll for at the start of the game. It's either him or Lotus. I always say Lotus more so because Lotus is a bit more offensive of an option, which will help you get through stages a bit faster, a bit more aggressive of an option, I guess I could say. Mars' skill 1 has a 60% chance to taunt, and if you get his skill page, it grants defense increase level 1, or increased defense level 1 for 2 turns, which is 105% boost to his defense. So just with his skill 1 for free, he's giving himself extra defense. And if you can level up his skill 1 to level 5, you're going to give him 80% chance to inflict taunt instead. His skill 2, 40% chance to stun an enemy stun an enemy for 1 turn, and then inflicts reduced defense level 3 to an enemy for 2 turns if they are inflicted with stun. If you get this up to level 5, then he has a 60% chance to stun the enemy. So, oh, I'm sleeping on that. I need to get that to level 5. You can see here my Mars' skills aren't leveled up all the way at all. Then we have his ultimate, which grants Fortify level 3 for 2 turns to himself, and then a 25% chance to inflict extend status change duration by 1 turn. Mars' combo skill has it's an AoE, and if you get it to level 5, has a 50% chance to inflict stun on an enemy for 1 turn. But like, you can stun entire enemy teams with this, like entire enemy like waves. You can stun the entire wave with this, especially if you have it level 5, because then that's 50% chance versus the 40% chance it starts out at. But Mars also grants all allies debuff immunity for 1 turn at the start of combat, and also 5% reduced damage taken while being attacked. And lastly, his skill page actually gives him stacks of Fortify. It gives him stacks of 8% of Fortify up to 4 times, so it's 30% to 32% Fortify. Mars, very good, very tanky option. And also, not to mention, Mars is a mage that focuses more so on physical attack. His physical attack actually is pretty solid. He actually does pretty decent damage against those enemies. Now, the next team we're going to be looking at here. Okay, good. We already talked about the first 3. Kahono. Kahono is good because 1, she has overtime healing. And you remember how I said at the start of this video, you know, I usually use Charmy. Well, I kind of strayed away from the healer thing. At the point that I'm using Charmy, at the point that I'm using Kahono, I'm just using Charmy instead. Kahono is a bit different though, because Kahono has overtime heals that last longer than Charmy's heals, but the percentages are much lower. Then on her skill 2, she doesn't heal. She increases allies' HP recovery, but more so she gives everybody a barrier instead. And the barrier scales off of her maximum HP. And if you have her skill page, she dispels 2 debuffs. So pretty good for the cleansing aspect of it, and also the shield. The shield is pretty helpful also. So whenever I'm doing like raids or anything like that, so like Battle Gigas, Arc Velox, or anything like that, if I'm doing the thing that requires me to use 2 teams, typically I'll have Kahono on the front line team, and then I'll have Charmy on the back line team, because Kahono's shields will make the front line team survive pretty well, and her heals over time are just like good as well too. But then Charmy just has a much crazier like healing output. So that's kind of how I break it down. Be just like the defensive and utility in the first run, and then just like non-stop healing battery in the second run. That's usually how I like form it. Her ultimate is going to be grants all allies HP recovery equal to 20% of her maximum HP, and grants all allies increased all attack level 2 for 2 turns. That's going to be 40% boost to attack and magical attack. And also, if you get the skill to level 5, you don't just give 40 or 20% of your max HP, you give 40% of your maximum HP. So Kahono's pretty good. Reduces the damage that she takes to herself, and also applies 10% increased max HP to self. And that's very good because all of her healing is based off of HP. Which also, there was a dungeon that was really hard, and I was trying to beat it with certain healers. I think it was like the first time I got to Veto on the Tower of Illusion, or the old Tower of Illusion, right? And basically, I couldn't beat that because, no, it was Raya, I think. I couldn't beat that because everybody's magical attack kept getting lowered. Then they finally released Charmy, and all of a sudden, it didn't matter that their magical attack was being lowered, because Charmy was healing based off of her HP, and I could eventually get back around to a point where everybody's magical attack just wasn't lowered anymore, and you just start ripping ass on that man. Next team. Okay, good. We're starting to get some free-to-play options. So, this is like my free-to-play team, and honestly, let me go ahead and just check the rest of these teams. Okay, I'm just kind of like throwing in more options that you have down here. Cool. So, this is like my first bet for a free-to-play team because, one, Lotus is somebody that you should be re-rolling for nonetheless. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, even if you're free to play, you should still have Lotus. Lotus should have been one of your priorities that you've been trying to get at the start of the game. We have Luck here because Luck does pretty good damage. Let's look over his skills. I actually do want to work on Luck. I was waiting for them to release an SSR Luck, and they finally are. But like, I kind of broken to the point where I was like, yo, I'm down to just work on this Luck right here. So let me go ahead and start gearing them up as well, because I am actually going to go and auto battle this team. Luck skill 1 has a 45% chance to deal additional damage equal to 35% of attack and magical attack with an additional attack. Then deals 35% additional damage with an additional attack to an enemy with an active shock debuff. So basically, you hit the enemy initially, Luck can additional attack with a 45% chance to additional attack, and then it sounds like he can do another additional attack if the enemy is shocked as well. So that's pretty interesting. So is that like a triple attack? That sounds pretty good to me. All right, cool. Second skill is like, it's not an AoE skill. It's like the main and adjacent. So you hit one enemy and then that spreads out to the enemies around them. So if there are 4 enemies, one of them is not getting hit, but still. Deals damage to a random enemy 3 times using lightning energy. Oh, okay, never mind. It's not even like that. It's just random enemy. Okay, cool. Has a 70% chance of applying shock to an enemy, dealing continuous damage for 2 turns. If you have a skill page, has an 80% chance of applying a 20% increased damage to yourself before attacking. Yeah, that's not bad. His ultimate is AoE, applies defense penetration level 3 to yourself before attacking, attacks while ignoring 30% of the target's defense. Evil. Then his combo skill. If an enemy is attacked by status change, if an enemy is affected by status change, attacks after applying 30% increased damage to self, and he has a combo skill with Magna. Uses Magna's Fireball and Luck's Holy Boots to deal damage to all enemies, so it becomes an AoE, his combo skill, and it applies shock to an enemy for 2 turns. So, his passive, when you get him to LR, applies, this is the passive that he gets when you awaken him. Applies 3.5 increased damage when your turn ends. Stacks up to 2 times. And since I haven't leveled up all the way, it's going to be 7% instead of 3.5%. So, Luck, very good like damage option, DPS option. And I've ran this team before, but instead of using Lotus, I've used Heath Grice, which we'll talk about Heath Grice as well in a second. Soul, now guys, level with me. Some of these mages that I'm reading over now, I don't really know their skills like the back of my hand, because like I've had like other options. Soul skill 1 applies taunt to an enemy for 1 turn if they have stamina equal to 70% or higher. Cool. So a first turn taunt basically, and then maybe a taunt later. Not maybe a taunt, but like there'll definitely be a taunt later on in the duration of the mission. Hits an enemy with a clawed fist, dealing damage. This one is a single target, and the first one was a single target as well. Has an 80% chance to taunt enemy for 1 turn. That's solid. Applies attack reduction level 2 to an enemy for 2 turns. 44% attack reduction. That's good. You know, season 2 has that skill on his skill 2, and it's an AoE, but still that's really good that she has that. Then applies fortify level 2 to yourself for 2 turns. So damage reduction again. I don't know how much this damage reduction is on level 2 just because it says 0% on the wiki. So Priden.gg, please fix that. Her ultimate is going to be applies reduced magical attack level 3 to an enemy for 2 turns. Has a 50% chance to dispel an enemy's barrier before attacking. And if you get this level 5, it has a 80% chance to dispel an enemy's barrier before attacking. It seems like Soul's like just like stuck at 80% a lot. Her passive is when attacked by an enemy under the taunt state, inflicts a 5% damage reduction debuff for 2 turns. Now that's pretty solid actually. I like that. So if you can taunt them when they attack you, they get that damage lower. That's cool. Yeah, let's go ahead and give her God Asta's gear here. It's weird seeing Soul like 63k. But then lastly, we have Charmy here. So, funny enough, best healer in the game in my opinion, Charmy. The other option, the best free-to-play option for a healer when the game starts, Charmy. Now, let me get Charmy that gear, and we're gonna look over her. I gotta figure out who has the gear. I'm gonna be honest with you, because Charmy's not wearing it right now. That's not the best gear set. That's the best gear set for healers. Okay, so Charmy is going to be skill 1. Grants the ally with the lowest HP recovery equal to 120% of their magical attack. 50% chance to perform an extra attack on an enemy, dealing damage equal to 60% of attack and magical attack. Grants all allies HP recovery equal to 30% of damage dealt upon performing an extra attack. If you get this all the way up to level 5, then 7.5 times 4, that's 30%. So grants all allies 60% of HP recovery. So 150% of their magical attack will be the HP recovery then if you get this to level 5. Her skill 2 grants an ally 240% of their magical attack as HP recovery and a 60% chance to grant that ally SP plus 1. And if you have her skill page, grants an ally increased magic attack level 2 for 1 turn. And that increased magic attack level 2 is 55% boost to your magical attack. And also, if this skill is at level 5, you have a 100% chance to grant an ally SP plus 1. And you also make them recover 330% HP as opposed to the 240 that you would originally do. So Charmy's, yeah, for an SR healer, Charmy's pretty crazy to be honest. Especially because some of her healing is based off of the person that you're healing's magical attack. So if you have somebody with really high magical attack, then they're going to be perfectly, they're going to be golden. Her ultimate inflicts remove 1 buff on the enemy, and then 50% chance to additionally inflict 1 remove buff on an enemy. Cool, so she can just take away 2 buffs. That's pretty solid, I like that. Combined attack grants increased magical attack level 4 to a partner mage's attack, and 40% chance to grant SP plus 1 to the partner mage. So a lot of just SP for free. And if you get this skill to level 5, her combo skill, you have it, that's 24%. You have a 64% chance to grant an ally 2 SP points instead of just 1. And her passive is 4% HP recovery. If you have it maxed out, it's 8% HP recovery, plus 8% to HP recovery. And also, just while we're here, Charmy's skill page gives her extra HP, I think. I'm pretty sure that says 15% extra HP right there. But yeah, those are I feel like your best bet for free to play options. I'm gonna auto battle with this team in a second since I geared them up, but before I auto battle with them, I just want to kind of go back and talk about these guys over here first. Ghosh is a good, I won't do the full breakdown, I know we're already treading 30 minutes here, but Ghosh is another very good mage. Pretty much his kit has a lot of double attack set up into it. Nebra is just a very cut standard, or not Nebra, Solid. Solid is just a very cut dry standard DPS. He also has a move that is the adjacent type of style move where you attack one mage and then it spreads off of his other mages. He has a single target skill, but he's okay. He's good as a DPS. He's not bad actually, but it's just I feel like this is gonna be your best bet. You can use Solid over Luck. Solid and Luck are probably interchangeable, to be honest. Then just another option that we want to talk about is Gifso. Gifso has some really good buffs to him. Gifso wasn't supposed to be in the game at start, but he was already in the game at start when the global version came out. We had to wait for him to come out on the JP version. Skill 1 on Gifso, increased attack level 1 to the ally with the lowest HP for 1 turn, 42% increase. Skill 2. Grants all allies 25% increased damage for 2 turns. There's a 40% chance to grant allies 40% increased damage to bosses for 2 turns. If you get this level 5, then that's a 40% chance to increase all allies damage 35% against the bosses. His ultimate grants all allies increased all attack level 2 for 2 turns, and there's a 50% chance to dispel poison from all allies. Then grants 60% increased favor damage to yourself and your partner mage for his combo skill. His passive is at the beginning of a turn, dispel debuff from yourself with a 20% chance. So Gifso has some very good, Gifso is a super utility kind of unit. He has a lot of different buffing options that you can go for. But yeah, this is probably what I'm saying is going to be your best bet for a free-to-play farm team. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just auto battle with this team, and I'm just going to give you a little disclaimer while this team auto battles. Now, what I will say is, even though my team is auto battling this and they're free-to-play mages, I still understand that's not exactly the same for free-to-play players, just because you guys are still going to have to work on these mages and get them up to a point where they can do auto battle like this, right? But even still, if they work on auto battle, then they definitely work with you controlling them manually, because sometimes the auto battle in this game can be very stupid. So these mages working together perfectly fine. Soul has a lot of capability with her kit and being able to taunt a lot of enemies and do damage reduction onto the enemies, and grant herself some form of fortify. Charmy's heals are really good, especially if you use her basic attack and she gets that extra attack off, because if she gets that extra attack off, then everybody's healing. So you see only Soul healed right there, which Soul doesn't even need the heal right now. Soul's beefy as hell. But Charmy got that first attack, healed Soul up. If Charmy would have gotten that second attack, then she would have just healed everybody. So, okay. Charmy, so Soul's not supposed to be doing damage anyway, but like Charmy did just kind of like give her a little boost there before she attacked. So she did noticeable damage, especially for an SR defender mage. Let's see if Charmy gets this basic attack and gets the additional. Okay, no, she's gonna do this. So that's not a bad heal right there. That 33k HP, that's not a bad heal. That's literally like half the HP on like some like DPSs. All right, let's see if Charmy can get the additional attack this time and actually get a solid like heal off. Try to use her skill 2 and she can't use her ult, so go for it. Oh, okay, she's gonna use a combo skill instead. Yeah, but luck, like I said, does pretty solid damage. I definitely need to make a gear set more predicated to him. This one right now that I'm rocking on him is attack, speed, and penetration. Like I said, this is like that's the set from Marileona that I'm like working on. I'm pretty sure Marileona is gonna have penetration in her kit. But funny enough, Luck is a mage that scales off of attack and magical attack like equally. Like if you look at his stats when you level him all the way up to level 100, and I feel like Marileona is probably gonna be the same way, because like Marileona literally just runs up and is just like a brawler with her enemies, but she like encases herself in her mana first because she's so adept at mana skin. That is kind of like my setup for blue, the red gear stage. Also, these teams apply for this stage right here as well, the talent stage, because like I said, this isn't just a blue gear stage video. This is like just like blue teams in general. Everything I said about all the other units still stands. Kyoto is in here because my gear was very limited at a certain point, and I had a gear set for a physical attacker, then I had a gear set for a magical attacker, and I was like, since Kyoto is blue, then I will just go ahead and throw him into the mix and try to give him a shot. But he's still really good. His skill 1, upon having a buff, attacks after applying 15% increased damage to yourself. His skill 2, attacks after applying 10% increased crit rate buff to yourself for each buff on yourself. And if you have his skill page, grant self dispel DOT, and if a DOT was dispelled, gains 1 stack of exciting dance. His ultimate upon having 2 or more buffs, the skills will be guaranteed crit, and also attack after applying 15% increased accuracy buff to yourself for each buff you have. Exciting dance is 5% increased endurance, 5% increased block. So that just gives him a little more durability. Then, after Exciting Dance reaches 5 stacks, gain Idle Debut buff. So Kyoto works in a way where you're just going to keep stacking defensive kind of buffs on him until they stack to a certain point, and then it becomes an offensive buff, right? And Idle Debut is going to be 30% increased endurance, 30% increased block, and then 50% increased damage. So Kyoto hits really hard if you let him get his idle dance or his exciting dance all the way up to 5 stacks, and also applies 5% increased damage to himself as his passive from Awakening. If you get him to 5-star, then it's going to be applies damage amount increased by 8%, and then also gives himself favorability damage by 15%. So yeah, Kyoto's a menace, dude. So yeah, he's definitely a very good choice to use in these stages as well. He has kind of like the similar setup as Julius, an ultimate and a single target skill 1 that hits really hard, and then a skill 2 that actually hits pretty hard as well. Doesn't have as many effects as Julius, but it still hits hard. The talent stage I feel like is harder than the gear stage because of the type of enemies in the stage. I feel like there's more AoE attacking enemies in the talent stages. But this is a good team to use here, and all the other mages that we talked about already, you know, you can just kind of like cycle them in here. This stage, I would recommend using a healer, actually, if you're going to be farming the level 15 version, because like I said, a lot of AoE enemies, these enemies hit hard. Typically when I farm talents, I farm all the way back on stage 6. It's like a full out DPS team always gets the job done, always. This I don't farm as much just because these like gear stat rollers are like kind of but like I should probably start farming it pretty soon here just to kind of like get my substats a step in the right direction while I wait to get the higher level materials. The team that I'm using here is the same as the red gear team. So yeah, you can see like the teams that you're using for one color type stage are typically going to be the teams that pour over into the other color type stage of the same color. But the next color that we're going to be talking about is like the blue stages, so like a green team. But if you guys did enjoy this video and felt that it was insightful, you can go down below, you can smack that like button, you can smack that subscribe, and you can hit the notification bell so that you can know when the Dead Man drops another video. You can get tapped in with me. And also look down below my videos. My Discord is linked down below. Y'all guys can join that up, guys and girls. Y'all can join that up, and y'all can get in touch with me there as well. Just chat with the Dead Man and chat with the community. It's pretty chill people. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. And I hope you guys, again, like I said, are having a good new year, man. But yeah, there's plenty more to come. So you guys be ready. Peace out.